My name is Nova, and for years Grayson called me kid, even though I was only 3 months younger than him. He said it with a smile, the kind that flashes teeth without warmth. When I presented, he whispered corrections that were not corrections. When my ideas landed, he repeated them louder and called them his own. When I won awards, he joked that the bar must be low this year. He did it in meetings, in hallways, in emails copied to people whose names opened doors. And every time, he said I was being sensitive. I learned a long time ago that some men do not throw punches. They choose paper cuts. You do not bleed out, you just stop reaching for anything sharp. The night it all ended began with a chair by the ice bucket. The company had rented the rooftop of the old hotel on State Street, string lights pulled across the sky like a net of soft stars. Grayson's promotion party. Vice President of Product Strategy. He had made sure the photo booth backdrop matched the color of his eyes. He had made sure the cocktails were named after features he did not build. He had made sure the mic was always close enough to his hand. Someone from events waved me over with the practiced smile of a person paid to make friction smooth. "We saved you a seat, Nova," she said brightly. It was not near the stage. It was not near the bar. It was next to a sweating steel tub full of melting ice and bottled seltzer. I could smell lemon rinds and chlorine. When I sat, a drip from the condensation plinked onto my shoulder, cold enough to make me shiver. Perfect, I thought. Right where he wants me. In the frame, but barely. A year earlier, that placement would have hurt. I would have swallowed it and smiled anyway. Tonight, it felt like a mark on a map I had already drawn. I set my purse under the chair and scanned the room. My manager, Mira, was here, soft blazer, eyes that always see the thing you are trying to hide. Our general counsel was here, in a dress that said summer and posture that said courtroom. A vendor from Denver who built our data pipeline stood with a flute of champagne and a nervous habit of twisting his ring. 3 junior analysts clustered near the railing like sparrows, bright and skittish and watching everything. They were all here because I invited them. Not to a fight. To a reveal. A string quartet eased into a cover of an old soul song. Laughter turned to applause turned to clinking glass. Grayson stepped onto the little stage with a mic and a grin that had closed many deals and opened many doors he had not built the hinges for. He told the story of his career, trimming the parts that did not photograph well. He thanked mentors whose names mattered. He mentioned me once, almost like an afterthought, which is how he liked me best. And to Nova, he said, lifting his glass, who always keeps us grounded in the details. He let the word details hang there like a compliment wearing a leash. I lifted my own glass and tasted nothing. The drip from the ice bucket found my shoulder again as if on cue. I smiled like a person who did not mind. Inside, I felt the calm of a diver who has counted to 3 and knows exactly how deep the water is. Because here is what Grayson never understood: I am detail by choice, not by limit. I am quiet because silence carries further than a shout when the room is listening for the wrong thing. And I am patient, not because I enjoy waiting, but because timing is a weapon he never bothered to learn. 2 weeks before tonight, I had found the final thread. A vendor invoice with a speech attached. His speech. The one he was about to give about the feature that transformed retention. Only the document's properties said authored by Nova. Only the diagrams matched my notebook sketches. Only the dates were wrong in a way that would sound small until you saw the whole wall of them, lined up like a calendar of theft. I did not rage. I did not confront him in the hallway and hand him the dignity of a private apology. I took a long walk instead, shoes slapping the pavement, city humming beneath my ribs. By the time I got home, I had a plan. It did not involve revenge. It involved the truth, placed exactly where his favorite stage could not avoid it. On the rooftop, the quartet ended. The event manager leaned toward the stage, whispering. It was time for open gratitude. People lined up to speak. The first 2 said predictable things. The third was the vendor from Denver, palms damp, smile earnest. He cleared his throat. I just want to say, he began, the breakthrough on the pipeline came the night Nova stayed with our team on video until sunrise. I have never seen someone diagram a failure cascade from memory. The room shifted. It was small. It was enough. Grayson smiled too wide and clapped too hard. I checked my watch. The countdown I had set in my head rolled to 0. Somewhere below us, in a server room that smelled like dust and promise, the scheduled message I had written delivered to a list I had built with care: Mira, General Counsel, our Chief Executive, our Board Liaison, and the Compliance Officer who never comes to parties but always reads late-night emails. Subject line: Attribution Packet, prepared per Council guidance. First line: please see attached timeline, logs, and recordings. Requesting formal review. On the stage, Grayson beckoned me with his hand. Come on up, kid. The word landed like a nasty old joke thrown at a brand new suit. I stood. The ice water dripped one more time, cold and clean, and then I stepped into the light. I did not need the mic yet. I needed the room to look at my face and see something they had not seen before: not hurt, not dismissal, not endurance. Intention. Grayson, I said, voice flat as a ledger, I brought a gift. He laughed, because he always laughed before he looked. You did? Well then, hand it over. I will, I said. But first, a toast. I raised my glass. His eyes shone. He loved a toast. He thought they were little mirrors that make you taller. To stories, I said, and to who tells them. Then I handed the mic to the person standing just behind the stage curtain. Mira stepped out. Next to her, the General Counsel. Behind them, the Compliance Officer who never comes to parties but had, for once, changed his mind. And this is when the night stopped being his. Grayson did not start as a villain. Few people do. He started as a buddy who held the elevator and sent links to podcasts and said things like, "You and me, we are going to run this place," with that conspiratorial half-laugh that makes you feel chosen. He started as a man who believed in merit as long as it tilted toward him. The first time he took something, it was so small I almost thanked him. I had stayed late to sketch a flow that would cut our onboarding time in half. The next morning he asked to rehearse with me before the product meeting. I walked him through it while he nodded in a way that meant, I am listening to your words and deciding which ones to wear. When we reached the conference room, he went first. I could not sleep last night, he said cheerfully, thinking about onboarding. He then presented my flow with 2 cosmetic changes and a joke about how Nova's the math brain, I am just the storyteller. Everyone laughed. The note-taker wrote Grayson's flow. After the meeting he clapped my shoulder. Team win, he said. A month later, he introduced a vendor to my idea as the direction I have been pushing for. When a junior analyst spotted the match between my notes and his slides, he told her I was confusing correlation and causation. When I filed a bug, he told engineering it was Nova's perfectionism, then made a show of praising my passion. People ask why I did not escalate. I did. First gently. Then clearly. It is not that nobody believed me, it is that belief without appetite for conflict is a kind of shrug dressed in empathy. We hear you, people said. Pick your battles. You are so good at the work, Nova, do not get pulled into politics. So I learned politics. The boring kind. The kind made of timestamps and chain of custody and versions saved with names that no one can argue with. I turned on detailed history in shared docs. I exported version control logs. I emailed summaries to myself from my personal account with subject lines that would make a future search easy: retention prototype, notes after call. I did not set traps. I built a timeline. The second big theft came wrapped in kindness. He brought me coffee and said he wanted to frontline my voice in the quarterly. You do the heavy lift, I will set the stage, he said. It sounded like equity. It was choreography. He went long. My time shrank to 5 minutes and a thank you. When I tried to jump in with one clarifying slide, he put a hand on my forearm and said into the mic, hang on, kid, we will get there. We did not. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with the kind of quiet you can only hold when you know if you let go, you will break something. I opened a clean document and wrote, "What do I need to make this undeniable?" The answer was not rage. It was receipts. Over the next year, I gathered exactly that: vendor emails naming who stayed on which calls, calendar invites that only ever went to me, recordings where my voice explained a problem before his voice told the room we had solved it, Git logs that showed commit histories inked with my handle, a procurement trail that proved who negotiated the license that saved us a fortune. I also collected the small things he would later pretend were jokes: the kid, the details, the she gets emotional about data. I will not pretend it was noble. It felt ugly sometimes, like I was building a case against a person I once cracked jokes with while waiting for a lift. But I was not building a case against his humanity. I was building a case for the truth. Then came the email that changed the slope of everything. Our chief executive sent a note: "We are finalizing leadership changes. Proud to promote from within." 2 hours later, Grayson posted a photo of cufflinks with the caption, "Leveling up." He tagged the rooftop hotel. I closed my laptop and went for a run that turned into a walk that turned into me standing on a bridge, thinking about how stories become the floor beneath people like him. They do not have to check for weak boards because someone else already fell through. At home, I called Mira. "I am done asking for courtesy," I said. "I have been waiting for you to say that," she replied. We met the next morning in a small conference room with bad art. I showed her the timeline. She read it like a person who knows how to read between lines. "We take this to legal," she said. "And we do it quietly." She pinged the general counsel. We spent an hour sorting what was proprietary, what was fair, what was wise. The counsel's voice was calm. "Do not confront. Do not leak," she said. "If we move right." Her last question surprised me. "Why wait for the party?" "Because he built his story on stages," I said. "I am going to let the truth stand on one." We set a date to send the packet to the right people at the right time. We invited the vendor who had watched me draw fixes at 4 in the morning. We invited the compliance officer who hates confetti but loves process. Mira asked for a favor from events: add an open gratitude segment after the cake. I created a small site with access control where every document lived in a neat row with labels that no one could argue with. On the morning of the party, Grayson sent a message to the whole team. "Tonight we celebrate," he wrote. "And tomorrow, we get back to building." I stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed a reply I did not send: "Yes. We do." Late afternoon, I added one more item to the packet, a clip from a lunch and learn where a junior analyst asked a good question. Grayson did not know the answer. He smirked, then looked at me. "Nova will spin up a story," he said. The room laughed. The analyst did not. You could see on her face that something closed. I included it not because it was cruel, but because it was true. Mockery is not a joke when the person with the mic writes performance reviews. Sunset poured gold over the rooftop. The string lights flickered on. The ice bucket sweated. I sat where they put me. I waited for the moment when be patient would stop feeling like compliance and start feeling like choice. "Nova," Mira whispered at my shoulder as she slipped behind the curtain, "are you ready?" I nodded. I had been ready for years. When Mira stepped beside me on the stage, Grayson performed surprise with the ease of a man who has practiced in a mirror. "Look who we have here," he boomed, arm wide like a game show host. "My favorite detail wrangler." Mira did not take the mic. She handed it to the general counsel. The shift was small. The shift was total. "Congratulations, Grayson," counsel said, voice warm but edged in steel. "Before we cut the cake, we want to honor what makes this place strong: attribution and integrity. We have invited a few folks to share." He laughed. It wobbled. "Is this a roast?" he asked, trying to ride the wave like it was his. "No, counsel said. This is a toast to the truth. She nodded toward the vendor from Denver. He came up, cheeks pink, paper crinkling in his hand. I will be quick, he said. I want to thank the person who slept on a couch so our team would not ship a broken release. Nova, you saved us. We would not be in this room without you. Scattered claps turned to real applause, the way rain starts with a few taps and then becomes weather. Grayson clapped also, a little too soon, a little too loud. His eyes found mine. I kept mine on the vendor. He looked relieved, like he had finally paid a debt. The junior analyst who had once been called emotional about data stepped up next. I was told to pick my battles, she said softly. So I picked proof. She held up a small screen showing a version control history. This is the retention model. The commits with meaningful changes carry one name. It is not Grayson. A murmur slid through the crowd. Grayson shifted his weight. The compliance officer approached the mic with the energy of a man who would rather be reading a policy. Just a reminder, he said, our code of conduct is not a poster. It is a binding agreement. He did not smile. He did not need to. Grayson made a little joke about paperwork. It landed like a coin dropped on carpet. Then Mira spoke. I have been a manager for a long time, she said. Good leaders shine a light. They do not bend it. She turned to me. Nova, will you join me? For a heartbeat, I felt the old urge to decline. Do not make waves. Do not make it about you. But the thing about a lifetime of mockery is that you start to think you are safest small. The thing about being ready is that you realize smallness is a choice someone taught you to make. I took the mic. The string lights hummed. The night smelled like citrus and dust. Tonight is not about taking anything from anyone, I said. It is about giving things back to where they belong. I nodded toward the junior analysts. Credit matters. Not because of ego. Because in rooms like this, credit becomes permission. Grayson laughed, a little wild. You hear that? I have been stealing credit. Classic Nova humor. I looked at him, and for the first time in years, I did not soften a single syllable. If it were a joke, I said, legal would not be here. The room went very quiet. Somewhere near the bar, a glass met a coaster with too much force. He tried to recover. Okay, you have had your fun. But this is my night. He said by the way a child clutches a toy. The general counsel tilted her head. Grayson, the packet has been sent to leadership. We will review. For now, we continue with the celebration. He blinked like a person staring at a word he recognizes but cannot sound out. Packet? Timeline, logs, recordings, she said. Prepared per guidance. His smile thinned until there was nothing left to lift. From the back, a voice called, "Let Nova cut the cake." Laughter. Relief rushing toward the easiest exit. I shook my head. No, I said gently. Grayson can cut his cake. He grabbed the knife like a man proving something. A drop of frosting smudged the cuff he had posted about. He laughed too hard. Someone turned the music up a notch. The quartet did not know how to play over a quiet panic, but they tried. I stepped off the stage and back toward my seat by the ice. My hands were steady. My heart was not frantic. I had not burned anything. I had set down a mirror. He had met it. He followed me with his eyes like a planet watching the moon it thought would always circle. He lifted his glass and tried again to make the room bend. Nova, he called, too loud. Come say a few words about the details. I turned. The details say the work is not yours, I said. Not cruel. Not loud. Just true. He put the glass down. It clicked against the table. He looked at the general counsel. You cannot do this to me on my night. We did not do anything to you, she replied. We paused. Paused what? He snapped. The part where you get to tell the story alone. A tiny part of me felt sorry for him. Not for the consequences. For the realization arriving all at once. The thing he thought would be the bow on his narrative had become a spotlight that showed the seams. Pity is not forgiveness. It is simply evidence you are still human. I caught Myra's eye. She gave a small nod that meant, breathe. Then she touched the compliance officer's sleeve and they stepped aside to a quiet table with the chief executive, who had arrived on the dot like leaders do when calendars carry other people's names. As the next song began, people resumed talking the way people talk when they are aware of a fire alarm but also of cake. I stood by the railing, watching the city tilt into night. Behind me, steps approached. Grayson. You set me up, he hissed, smile glued on for anyone glancing over. No, I said. You set the table. I put the right names on the place cards. You could have come to me. His voice shook. We were friends. We were colleagues, I said. And you were careful until you were not. For a moment, he looked young. Not in the charming way he likes to perform. In the scared way of someone who believed the floor was fixed and finds out it is ice. He leaned closer. You will regret this. You told me that the first time I asked for credit, I said. I did not then. I will not now. He laughed, but there was no air in it. You think they will give you my job? I did not do this to get your job, I said. I did this so the junior analysts in this company do not learn my patience and your audacity as the only options. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it. You are emotional, he said finally, as if naming me would shrink me. And you are exposed, I said. We stood there for one long beat, the city loud beneath us and so quiet I could hear the drip from the ice bucket hitting the floor in a patient rhythm. Then Mira touched my elbow. They want to speak with us, she murmured. Now. We walked toward the back table where the general counsel, the chief executive, and the compliance officer waited. Grayson moved to follow. The counsel lifted a hand without looking at him. Please stay near the stage, she said. He froze like a man who just learned where the rope is. The first crack in his smile had become a fracture. The room had noticed. That is how truth works. It is not always a hammer. Sometimes it is a scene that opens, and suddenly you see daylight where you were told there was only wall. The corner table did not look like power. It looked like a place to stack empty plates. But power is not always where the light is. The chief executive greeted me with the same steady gaze he uses when earnings are good and when they are not. Thank you for coming over, he said. Please sit. Mira sat beside me. The general counsel placed a thin folder in front of the chief executive, a printed summary of the packet. The compliance officer folded his hands like a person about to say grace over a complicated meal. Nova, the chief executive said, we read your materials. He did not say claims. He did not say allegations. He said materials. It mattered. The general counsel summarized. We have timestamps linking key designs to Nova's accounts, vendor statements corroborating her presence on critical escalations, version histories showing authorship, and recordings where attribution shifts on stage. Anything beyond the line? He asked. She shook her head. No trade secrets were exposed to outside parties. No data privacy breaches. Nova routed this internally per guidance. He nodded. Thank you, he said to me. The thank you hit me in a place I did not know was still raw. It was not for the packet. It was for not setting the whole thing on fire on my way out. People love to tell you anger is dangerous. They do not warn you how corrosive restraint can be when it is demanded without reciprocation. Next step, the compliance officer said, is a formal review. Tonight we let the party breathe. Tomorrow morning, we begin. The chief executive looked out over the room. Grayson was laughing loudly in a circle of people who were not laughing back. Tonight cannot be undone, he said quietly. We should not pretend it did not happen. He turned back to me. Nova, I am sorry it took this to make us move faster. He did not owe me that. He gave it anyway. It did not make me forgive the months I spent documenting while being called dramatic. It did change the temperature of my fear. Will there be retaliation? I asked. The question felt both small and like a cliff. The general counsel's answer was crisp. No. And if anyone tries, they can talk to me. I exhaled. Thank you. Do you want to leave? Mira whispered. You do not have to stay and hold this room up. I looked toward the railing where the junior analysts stood, faces lit by string lights and whatever word courage feels like at that age. I thought about the vendor who would go home and tell his team that the person who saved their delivery was not a ghost. I thought about the woman from finance who sent me a quiet message last winter that said, I saw what happened. I am sorry. I am staying, I said. The chief executive gave me a small nod that meant, noted. We stood. As we did, a senior leader from marketing approached the table with the ginger carefulness of someone carrying hot tea. Should I adjust the program? She asked. Do not cancel, the chief executive said. Do not spin. We celebrate the team. Keep the gratitude open. She nodded and walked away, relief and responsibility sharing the same doorway in her face. On our way back toward the center of the roof, Grayson intercepted us. He had lost the gloss. His shirt collar gaped slightly, a man who had been adjusting and adjusting without finding the right notch. What is this? He demanded. A coup? It is a review, the general counsel said. You know how those work. He scoffed. This is a witch hunt. Witches are imaginary, she said. Documentation is not. He turned to me. You will not survive this. Mira stepped between us, not like a shield, like a boundary. Walk away, Grayson, she said. He did not. You do not get it, he said, voice lowering. I am the one who knows the room. They like me. Rooms can learn, I said. You are seeing it happen. He laughed, then leaned in with the old squeeze of false intimacy. You always needed me to translate you. You are good at math. I am good at people. That is not translation, I said. That is theft with better lighting. Something in his eyes flashed, a small mean spark. What are you without me on your email threads? He asked. I did not dignify it. I looked past him to the three analysts watching, to the vendor, to the finance woman. Apparently, I am visible, I said. A chime from someone's phone broke the moment, bright and silly. The event planner clapped for attention, voice too cheerful and exactly right. We have another round of open gratitude, she announced. Then cake. A woman from customer support took the mic. She told a story about a holiday weekend when a client escalated and how someone stayed, resolving not just a bug but a relationship. Nova wrote the apology email, she said. It was precise and kind. The client sent a thank you. I saved it. She looked at me. I did not say it then. Thank you. I felt my throat go tight, the way it does when someone hands you something you forgot you needed. Grayson shifted from foot to foot like a runner trapped at a red light. He made a move toward the mic. The general counsel touched the base of it first and angled it away, gentle and absolute. In the corner of my eye, I saw the chief executive put a hand on the compliance officer's shoulder. They were watching the room, not for gossip, for safety. There would be no scenes. There would be no yelling. There would be a party that continued, not pretending, but recalibrating. By the time the cake arrived, the energy had changed. People were laughing again, but it was cleared of a specific tension, the kind that makes you watch a man's mouth for the shape of the next dig. The quartet found a rhythm that sounded like summer again. Grayson cut the cake. His hand shook. The frosting dragged. He looked up at me, and for the first time in our years of hallway banter and meeting room crosstalk, he did not smirk. He looked like a person who has been told his favorite shortcuts are closed. Congratulations, I said, because I still believe words mean what they mean. On tonight. He blinked. You are cruel. No, I said. I am accurate. He handed a slice to a passing colleague, then set the knife down with a clatter. He wiped his hands on a napkin like a man trying to erase fingerprints. I went back to my seat by the ice bucket. The drip had stopped. The tub was just water now, clear and still, holding reflections of the string lights. I could see my face in it. I looked like myself, not smaller, not larger, just exact. My phone buzzed. A message from the General Counsel, packet acknowledged by board liaison. Formal step begins at 9. Another from the Chief Executive, thank you for your courage and for your care. Courage. Care. 2 words I had not expected to share a sentence with tonight. I tucked the phone away like a fragile thing. A junior analyst slid into the chair beside me, tentative. Can I ask something? She whispered. Of course. What if they do not believe the next person who does not have all your documents? They will, I said. Because tonight taught them how to look. She nodded, as if that answer was a light she could walk by. The quartet played one more song. The lights were warm. The city was alive. And for the first time in a long time I did not feel like I was holding my breath inside my own life. The morning smelled like paper and coffee. The conference room we used for the review was the kind with a table too long for its walls, a design choice that says, decisions happen here whether there is room for them or not. At 9, the General Counsel started the recorder. This is a standard attribution review, she said for the file. Present, compliance, legal, the Chief Executive, the Head of People Operations, Nova as reporting party, and Grayson as subject of review. Grayson took the seat nearest the window, as if sunlight could vote. His cufflinks were gone. His sleeves were rolled in a way that said, I am just a hard-working guy. I did not look at his arms. I looked at the folder in front of me. It held truth. Truth does not need sunlight. It needs sequence. Nova, the counsel said, please summarize your concern. I did. Not like a prosecutor, like a builder. I laid the pieces down in order, the onboarding flow, the pipeline rescue, the retention model, the quarter where my minutes shrank when his time grew, the vendor statements, the commit histories, the recordings. I did not embellish. I did not editorialize. I said I when the logs said my name, and we when teams carried weight together. Then she asked Grayson to respond. He smiled a tight, tired smile. First, he said, I want to acknowledge Nova's work ethic. He was going to praise me into a smaller box. I knew this trick. He continued. She is brilliant with details. I am a storyteller. If the storytelling overshadowed some of the work, that is on me. But leadership is about vision, not who typed which line at 3 a.m. The Chief Executive did not react. The compliance officer did not blink. The Head of People Operations wrote something down that I suspect was not a compliment. The General Counsel slid a printed Git log across the table. Vision is not in dispute, she said. Authorship is. He tried a different angle. I mentored Nova, he said. No, I said gently. You managed me. He tried humor. You know how intense she gets, he said, leaning toward the Head of People Operations as if we were gossiping over a salad. I have always tried to help her pick her battles. Documenting theft is not a battle, I said. It is hygiene. Something in his face cracked, a flicker of anger unmasked. He turned to the Chief Executive. This will destroy morale, he said. The Chief Executive folded his hands. Morale is already damaged when work goes to the wrong name. There it was. The sentence I had been waiting years to hear spoken by someone who can move budgets. The counsel resumed. We will collect more statements, she said. We will review more histories. We will come to a conclusion. For now, Grayson, we ask you to refrain from public commentary. He scoffed. So I am gagged while she grandstands? No one is gagged, the counsel said. We are asking for professionalism. He leaned back. Fine, he said. Do your theater. The word theater rang in the air. The irony did not need a spotlight. We adjourned. In the hallway, people moved like people do on review mornings, quickly, quietly, pretending work is normal. A woman from finance squeezed my shoulder in passing, a little human anchor thrown to someone who looked steady and might not be. By lunch, the whispers began. Not the ugly rumor kind. The recalibration kind. Someone posted a message in the general channel that said, "Gratitude thread for attribution." People replied with names and specific thank yous. Someone tagged me. I typed appreciated and then closed the window, dizzy with the newness of being looked at without a wince. Mid-afternoon, Grayson tried a fallback. He posted a photo from the party with a caption that read, "Grateful for the whole team. We do this together." It was a performance of humility, the sort that comes after an audience stops clapping. The comments were polite and thin. The old energy did not return. At 3, the head of people operations called. We have placed Grayson on administrative leave during the review, she said. We will message that he is taking time for family and health. We will not slander him. We will not lie. Thank you, I said, meaning it. She paused. And Nova, thank you for how you carried this. For not making us learn this lesson through fire. I thought about how many women are asked to be palatable in their pain. I did not do it to be liked, I said. I did it to be clear. And you were, she said. After the call, I stared at the ceiling and let the hum of the office fill my head. For so long, that sound had been a backdrop to shrinking. Today it felt like a place. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You won, it read. Happy? I knew it was him without the name. A decade of jokes has a scent. I tapped out a reply and then deleted it. I tried again. No one wins when truth is late, I wrote. I hit send. I blocked the number. Then I closed my eyes and let the quiet be quiet. That evening, I walked home past the hotel where the string lights still hung like soft memory. I thought about cake and knives and cups of water that become mirrors. I thought about all the ways we are told to be patient and all the different meanings that word can carry. I thought about the analyst who asked me if the next person would be believed. I cannot promise her yes. I can promise that the packet exists now, not as a binder, but as a culture. That sounds grand. It is not. Culture is 1,000 small choices carried out loud. At home, I opened my laptop and wrote 3 emails, one to the vendor, thanking him for speaking, one to the junior analysts, inviting them to a standing weekly where we talk about how to document and how to ask for the mic, one to Mira, telling her I saw her, not just last night, but every day she chose to hold the line. Then I made tea and stood at the window and let the city do what cities do, keep going. 2 days into the review, I found an email in my inbox with a subject line that rarely promises something kind. Can we talk about Grayson? It was from Erin, a former colleague who had left for a startup 2 winters ago. We were never close, but she was kind in the way that shows up when you need an extra set of hands at quarter end. I said yes. We met in the lobby cafe, the one with the plants that always looked healthier than anyone who drank the coffee. She ordered tea. I ordered water. We sat, and she did that thing people do when they are about to tell you a story that costs them something. She lined her cup up with the seam in the table. I am not here to make you doubt your case, she began. You should not doubt it. She met my eyes. I am here because I think I know the story Grayson tells himself, and sometimes it helps to know the script, even when you are not buying a ticket. I nodded. When I managed him, before your team was formed, she said, he was useful. Charming with clients. Quick with a deck. And constantly undercutting himself with shortcuts. He wanted applause more than momentum. That is fine at certain levels. It curdles when stakes rise. She wrapped both hands around her cup. When you joined, his compliments changed. He stopped praising your output and started framing it as raw material for his narrative. He thinks of himself as the translator, Nova. He thinks math is a foreign language and that he is the one who gets it into the room. I almost laughed. It landed too close. Ever notice how translators' names are on the spine too? I said. She smiled, sad. He never learned that addition. Why tell me this? I asked. Now? Because I normalized it when I managed him, she said, not flinching. I told myself his polish was covering for gaps on the team. I told myself and justifies means more times than I like to admit. When I saw your packet, I heard a bell in my head I have been ignoring. I wanted you to know your clarity made me take responsibility for my blur. Shame is heavy when it is yours. It is heavier when someone hands you theirs. It did not feel like a burden from her. It felt like witness. Thank you, I said. She nodded. Also, she added with a glint I had not seen in her before, I sent a note to our chief executive. Not about Grayson. About what to build next so we do not need a Nova to do a Nova. On my way back upstairs, I thought about the men who had told me I was too sharp and the women who had told me to sand my corners. I thought about how both bits of advice leave you dull. Then I thought about edges used for carving instead of cutting. The metaphor went too far and I let it go, smiling at myself. Not everything needs to be a lesson. Some things can just be a day. By afternoon, Grayson posted again, this time a photo of him holding a charity check from last fall. Always about giving back, he wrote. The comments were kinder. The timing was not. I did not respond online. I did send a quiet note to the head of people operations, flagging his external posts for potential manipulation. She replied, already on it. Late in the day, a message popped up from an address I did not recognize, a contractor who had been on the retention model in its earliest jittery days. I kept a journal of our calls, she wrote. Happy to share timestamps. I forwarded it to the general counsel. Helpful, she replied. We are nearly done. Nearly done. 2 words that pull the shoulders down and let breath find new rooms. That night, I walked past the hotel again and looked up at the roof. You could still see the string lights. None of them had fallen. The city does not take sides. It just holds. At home, I opened my notebook. Not the one with flows and models. The other one. The one where I write things I need to remember when the room gets loud. I wrote, when someone calls you kid, ask who benefits from your shrinking. Then I drew a small box and wrote, do not climb in here when invited. It sounds silly now, written that plainly. It did not feel silly when the people you admire laugh at the jokes you know cut you at the knees. My phone buzzed on the table. A text from Mira, tomorrow morning. Final findings. I exhaled through my nose, a small animal sound. I put the phone face down and let the ceiling be a ceiling. Sleep did not come quickly. It did come, eventually, like it always does when you decide you can handle whatever the next sentence says. We met in the same room at 10. The table did not feel so long today. The general counsel clicked the recorder on. Conclusion of attribution review, she said. Findings: substantial evidence supports that Nova originated key designs and carried material execution on multiple initiatives later attributed to Grayson. Additional evidence supports a pattern of misattribution in public settings. She paused. Recommendation: revoke promotion pending remediation, formal corrective action for Grayson, rebuild attribution protocols. Secondary recommendation: leadership development for managers on credit assignment. The chief executive spoke next. We did not protect the right people at the right moments, he said. I own that. We are fixing it. The head of people operations added, Grayson, we are moving you to unpaid leave while we structure a performance improvement plan specific to attribution integrity. If you choose to resign, we will accept it. His face went blank in the way faces go blank when they are trying to hold back heat. And Nova? He asked, like the name was a stone in his mouth. The chief executive turned to me. Nova, we would like you to serve as acting head of product strategy while we rerun the search with attribution criteria in mind. You are the work. We need the work at the table. It would be a lie to say I did not expect something like this. It would be a lie to say my heart did not leap anyway. It would also be a lie to say I said yes right away. I have conditions, I said. The general counsel smiled, small and real. Of course you do. I looked at Mira. She gave me a go-on tilt of her head. 1, I said. No promotion parties until we can audit attribution in real time, not in a post-mortem. Agreed, the chief executive said. 2, I said. A standing attribution forum for any team member to contest credit outcomes without retaliation, facilitated by people operations and compliance. Done, said the head of people operations. 3, I said. Budget for a rotation program so junior analysts present their own work to clients and leadership. Mira actually grinned. I will help write that. And 4, I said. I do not want Grayson fired to solve our conscience. I want his behavior documented and corrected so that if he leaves, it is with an accurate record, and if he stays, he cannot pretend this was drama. Silence for a beat. Then the chief executive nodded. Integrity or exit, he said. No mythology. Grayson barked a laugh that was not a laugh. You will love being in charge, he said to me, bitter like old coffee. I will love not watching people disappear while their work stays, I said. The general counsel closed the folder. We will send formal notices by end of day, she said. Meeting adjourned. In the hallway, people did not whisper. They smiled small, the way you smile at a person who just ran through rain while you held the door. In the elevator, a man from sales said, about time, and then looked like he wished he had not said it out loud. I smiled at him anyway. Back at my desk, I opened my laptop to a flood. Messages from the vendor, the contractor, the junior analysts, the finance woman, Erin. Notes from strangers in other departments. One said, I am an accountant. I do not know your world. I know what it feels like to be erased. Thank you. I wrote back to as many as I could. I did not say no problem. It was a problem. I said, you are seen. It felt small. It felt like currency. By late afternoon, the company-wide email went out. It did not say everything. It did say enough. Leadership update, it began. We are recommitting to attribution integrity. Effective immediately, Grayson will be on leave. Nova will serve as acting head of product strategy. Please join us in building processes that honor the work as much as the story. I walked down to the lobby and stood in the sunlight that slides between buildings at that hour like a thin invitation. My phone buzzed with a number blocked by my own hand. I let it buzz. Then it stopped. Then it buzzed again from a different number. I let it buzz. There is a difference between closure and contact. Only one is required. That night, I did not walk by the hotel. I walked by the river instead. The water moved the way truth does when you stop trying to dam it with politeness. It finds a way. Acting head is a strange title. It gives you the key and reminds you the door is temporary. I did not mind. Doors are still doors when you are the one turning the handle. Day 1, I sent 3 notes. First, to product managers, from now on, the slide with results includes a line for authorship with specific names. Replace we when we mean she or he or they. Second, to engineering and data, version control screenshots will be a standard appendix in quarterly reviews. Third, to all hands, attribution forum will be held every other Thursday. Anonymous submissions welcome. If you speak, I will be in the room. It was administrative. It was radical. Not because no one had thought of it. Because someone with a calendar slot and a budget line had written it down. We held the first forum in the same too-long table room. People came. Not to vent. To test. A designer shared a story about a sales deck that swapped her name for team. We pulled up the doc history together. We corrected the slide. A junior from support spoke about the apology letter she wrote that stopped a churn. We added a section to the playbook with her draft credited. We ate cheap cookies. We made a list of things we fixed this quarter. It felt small and like the beginning of a spine. Between those meetings, there was work. There is always work. Features do not build themselves while companies do therapy. I caught myself, twice, about to say we were she was right. I said the she. It felt like stepping on a floorboard that holds. On the third day, Grayson tried the back door. He emailed select leaders from his personal account with a carefully framed narrative. I have been the victim of a misunderstanding. Nova is talented, but she does not understand what leadership requires. I have always lifted her up. Please consider the larger picture. He attached photos of him shaking hands with clients. One of those leaders forwarded the note to legal and to me. For your awareness, she wrote. No commentary. No performance of neutrality. Just light. The General Counsel drafted a simple response and sent it company-wide to preempt the Whisper network. Reminder, external communications about internal reviews violate our policy, it read. We are handling this through appropriate channels. If you receive such messages, forward to legal. Nothing grand. Enough. That evening, Mira knocked on my door frame. You okay? She asked. Yes, I said, surprised to find the word true. She Saturday, you know he will likely resign. I know, I said. I also know his resignation is not the moral of this story. What is? That the work stayed where it belongs, I said. And that the next person does not have to build a binder to convince anyone they exist. She smiled. Put that on a mug. Do not tempt marketing, I said, and we both laughed for the first time in days, the kind of laugh that makes your chest remember it is not armor. Near dusk, before I left, I walked past the ice bucket storage and events. It was a silly sentimental errand. The bucket from the party sat upside down, drying. I touched the rim. Cold, smooth, unremarkable. Nothing heroic about it. That is how justice usually feels when it is working, ordinary. The head of people operations invited me to sit in on Grayson's exit interview. No obligation, she said. Transparency. I did not go to watch him fall. I went because closure is cleaner when you do not have to imagine it. He arrived late. He wore resignation casual, the costume of a man who wants you to think he was already leaving. He sat, glanced at me, rolled his eyes slightly in a reflex that felt as old as our first meeting. The head of people operations began. You are resigning effective immediately, she said. We will honor your accrued benefits. We ask that you sign this acknowledgement of our findings and this non-disparagement that applies to both parties. He skimmed the pages. Non-disparagement, he smirked. So we all get to lie professionally. No, she said. We get to stop gossip. The findings remain. He signed. His pen scratched like a small animal in a wall. Then he looked at me. Happy? I did not sigh. I did not smile. No, I said. I am relieved. There is a difference. He leaned back. You were always so earnest, he said. You think the world is tidy now. I do not, I said. I think our part of it is less crooked. For a second, something like recognition crossed his face. The tiniest nod, the kind you make when you read a line in a book that you wish you had written. I was good at parts of this, he said, as if he needed me to say it. You were, I said. And you learned the wrong lesson about what made you valuable. He laughed, and this one had air in it. Maybe, he said. Then his eyes sharpened. They will chew you up. They already tried, I said. I grew teeth. He pushed his chair back. Good luck, kid. I did not flinch. Do not call me that, I said, not angry, not pleading. Corrective. I am not your kid. He paused in the doorway. For once, he corrected himself. Nova, he said. Then he left. I sat there a moment longer, letting the air reclaim the space he had occupied in my head. The head of people operations gathered the papers. You handled that with more grace than I would have, she said. I am out of grace, I said softly. What you saw was accuracy. She smiled. It looks good on you. Outside, the day was bright, one of those city afternoons that glitters and dares you to make a metaphor. I did not. I went back to my desk and worked. Because after big moments, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is something small and ordinary that you are good at. 3 months later, we held a different kind of party. No rooftop. No string lights. No mic. We booked the cafeteria at 4, pushed tables together, and wrote names on index cards in heavy marker. Not titles. Contributions. The board liaison visited that week and asked for a quick tour. I did not show her the shiny walls. I showed her the attribution form whiteboard with items checked off in blue. I showed her the new template where authorship sits under results. I showed her the calendar where junior analysts' names appear next to client meetings. She nodded, then asked for copies. It is a small thing to watch a process become a pattern. The vendor from Denver sent an edible arrangement that was mostly pineapple and relief. The contractor mailed a postcard from a beach that said, "Still journaling." The finance woman stopped by my office, leaned in, and said, "I slept better last night," then left before I could answer, which somehow made the sentence heavier and lighter at the same time. We hired 2 new analysts who introduced themselves with their pronouns and their favorite error message. I told them about the forum. One asked, "Does it work?" I said, "It works when we use it." She said, "We will, like a promise." I still find myself, sometimes, reaching for the old smallness. A meeting gets loud. A comment lands wrong. The urge to make myself tidy so the room can breathe touches my shoulder like muscle memory. When it does, I think about the ice bucket drip. I think about the first vendor who said my name into a mic. I think about Myra's nod, the council's materials, the chief executives. We did not protect the right people. I think about the junior who asked if the next person would be believed. And I choose the larger chair. On a quiet Friday, I took the elevator down to events and found the ice bucket again. I borrowed it with permission and carried it to the cafeteria. I filled it with seltzer and lemon slices and set it in the center of the table before our little party. When people asked why the bucket looked fancier than it needed to, I said, because the center of the room used to be a place I was not allowed to sit. We made toasts with water. We said names out loud. We ate cake someone's grandmother baked, the kind with frosting that smudges your thumb when you cut it. Near the end, Mira tapped her glass with a spoon. One last thing, she said. Nova, give us a line to take home. I do not love speeches. I love sentences. So I offered this one. Tell the story, and put the right names on it. Later that night, walking home, I felt the city move under me, not like a stage, like a street. Real. Solid. Mine to choose. Before we close, I will say this directly to you, the person listening who recognizes the paper cuts in your own days. I did not expose Grayson to watch him fall. I exposed the lies so the work could stand. If someone has been mocking you into a smaller shape, know this, you are not difficult for wanting your name on your work. You are not ungrateful for asking the room to see. You are not dramatic for counting the cuts. Some stories end on rooftops. Most end in rooms that smell like coffee and paper. They end with a policy updated, a whiteboard check mark, a junior analyst choosing to speak in the first person. If this story found you at the right time, tell me one thing you will name out loud this week. Or tell me where you are listening from. I read every note. And if you want more stories where truth does not need a shout to carry, you know where to find me. We have work to do. The kind you can see,